is it a leopard? But it is a leopard in a tree. Do you see it in front, everybody? Look at that. Draped over the branches of a marula. It doesn't get much better than that. So we've got a leopard sprawled out beautifully. Now, hopefully Thamba is also here. I know that Thandi is definitely here, but I'm not 100% sure if Thamba is here. So let's have a little look quickly. But that is a sight for sore eyes, a leopard hanging from a marula tree, that's for sure. So I'm going to just try and get in here. Now, Ferg, I'm going to park this side in case she moves her head, because if she does, the light will be absolutely amazing. So there we go. It looks like Thandi up in the tree itself. I can't see any sign of Thamba, but that is the quintessential leopard shot, and you can see she is perfectly sprawled over that branch, her back legs over each side, which just helps her to balance, and then her paw up underneath this head for a bit of a pillow to rest on. And isn't that amazing? That is, like I say, as good as it gets when it comes to a leopard, that's for sure. They really are the most beautiful animals, and when they sit in a tree like this, it really doesn't get any better. Now, hopefully she's going to just lift her head and turn it towards us. It seems that she's still more interested on the other side, and often you'll find with these leopards is that they have a really good nap in a tree like this, and they actually sometimes don't really care too much to actually turn their head even when a vehicle approaches. So I'm not sure if she will, but we'll give it a little moment, and if she doesn't, then we'll just reposition ourselves and see if we don't get a better sort of view of her head. But that is beautiful. And the color of that coat, that sort of deep gold color on that dark branch, it just really is the most beautiful thing to see. When you sort of see this for the first time, it just takes your breath away as a leopard sort of sits in a tree like this. And it amazes me that they're able to actually get up there and spend their sort of time up there, and that they make it look so comfortable. It must be very windy up there, though. I'm surprised that they're up in conditions like this. I don't see a carcass anywhere in this tree, so it's not that they're up there for food. But I wonder if this isn't Thamba. Just judging by those ears are perfectly round. So I wonder if it isn't him. Not easy to tell when you're looking at the back of a head of a leopard, but it does look like it could be Thamba's ears. Thandi's a little bit older, and so she does have a few little nicks and cuts in her ears in places, and a bit of wear and tear as she's gone through the paces, and so maybe that's why we can't sort of, why I think it is Thamba. Also, that coat is very dark. Tough to say, though. I'm just surmising at this stage. I also can't see any sign of the genitals, which would be an indicating factor if it was Thandi or Thamba. I'm going to try and see if I can't just find a better position here. It doesn't seem like she's going to turn to face us at this stage. So I wonder if there's not a better place that we can park ourselves. Just trying to wait for the other vehicles to get themselves sorted out and to get themselves settled. So, James, you're wondering if leopards are mostly nocturnal. Well, I suppose they do have periods of activity at night, but they're actually what is called crepuscular. Now, crepuscular animals are animals that are active around sunset and sunrise, so a leopard's peak activity is at those times. So this time of the day is when they start to kind of wake up, and they'll move around just before sunset, and then in a few hours after sunset, and then again around the same thing at sunrise. So they move around in those periods, and then during the middle of the night, they're actually quite sort of docile. They tend to do a bit of sleeping in the middle of the night and actually don't move too much at all. Now, once that vehicle is settled, I'm going to just try and move around and see if we can't get a better view. Hopefully we'll be able to see in underneath this vegetation. Ferg, let's try and see if we can't see the face so we can just find out exactly who this is. Because there was reports of Thandi, there was reports of Thamba, there was reports of both. So I want to try and see if I can't see exactly who this is. But difficult to say at this stage from, like I say, looking at the back of the head. Now, I must apologize yesterday when we had in Kanyeni that, well, what I said was in Kanyeni, it wasn't in Kanyeni. Afterwards, I went and had a look, and James Richard very kindly pointed out that it was indeed Kuchava, which is Taylor's favorite leopard. So, oh no, did you just turn your head? No, you didn't. I thought for a second there she might have turned her head, but we're going to just try and pull up a little bit. There we go. How's that, Ferg? Is that better? So Ferg, we have to keep Ferg happy, and that's the one that we've got to try and talk to and make sure that he's got a good angle. But isn't that beautiful? Absolutely marvelous. Now, we are using a new camera, so Fergie is trying to get a hang of it. I know James was chatting about it this morning, and it's got a bit of a different focus system, so every now and then Fergie is just trying to get that right. So if it is a little bit sort of in and out, that is the reason why. Isn't that a serene sort of picture? Fast asleep. It actually does look like it could be Thandi. It is Thandi that is lying up in the tree. Now that I can actually see her a little bit better, it is her. I'm surprised at how intact her right ear is. It's not at all sort of nicked as I thought it was. Maybe the left ear's got 1 or 2 nicks in it, but her right ear is definitely okay. Now, it's a pity she's not facing the other way, because that light at the moment is gold, gold, gold on her. It would have been a beautiful, beautiful image had she turned and faced us on the other side. But now the fact that she's got her legs sprawled on either side of that branch, I'm pretty sure she's found the sort of better side to sleep. So, Vaping Raven, you say it looks like she needs to eat. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Her stomach looks quite bulgy to me. There's no sort of indent there at all. You can see, look, there's a sort of roundness to that. So she might not be absolutely packed full, but she's definitely not skinny by any stretch of the imagination. So she's not in bad condition, and certainly would be not in heavy need of a meal. I mean, she could eat a little bit, but she's not skinny by any stretch of the imagination. When you see around the back leg area, when there is a sort of no indent there, then you know that they are doing okay. So she's not looking too bad at all. But it's so nice against that sort of dark, stormy sky in the background. Very pretty. So, Riti, you're wondering why leopards why leopards like to be on trees so much. Well, the reason for it is quite simple. Is that one is it's a place where they can get away from other predators, so it's a safety area, so they can get up into these trees and they can hide away from any other predator and get out of the way of other predators. 2, it's out of the grass, which means that it's out of range of ticks, flies, mites that might be around. And then 3 is it's a great place to be able to store food. So because a leopard is a slightly smaller cat than something like a lion, and it's also a similar size to what a hyena would be, it becomes very difficult for them to be able to keep food on the ground. And so they're able to then pull it up into trees, and because of that they then spend their time on top like this, where they're able to then sort of relax and take it very, very easy. But isn't that beautiful? Like I say, there's very few scenes that are as spectacular as a leopard in a tree. You can see that long tail that just helps them to balance. When they are climbing in and out of trees, that tail will move and counterweight them and just help them sort of keep their balance on these branches. It's actually sort of quite a phenomenal thing to watch leopards jump around trees, particularly if they're chasing something or if they're getting away from something like lions. You'll find they'll go into the narrowest of narrow branches, and how they keep their balance is all down to the fact that they have that longer tail, or longish tail, that helps them just to sort of counterbalance their body and helps them just sort of catch their weight a little bit and hold on. And they obviously then also have claws that help if they do decide to start sort of losing grip. They can get those claws in and be able to hold them. But this is really, really, really special. Now, we're going to spend a little bit of time with Thandi, and hopefully Thamba will show up, and the scene is just getting more and more beautiful as that sun is dipping down, and I'm hoping she's going to turn her head and we'll be able to see her in that golden light. And while we do that, I believe Jamie is sitting with the largest animal that we have out here. Indeed, isn't that beautiful? You can see there the paws hanging down as Thandi lounges while the sun goes down behind her. Is that not an epic, epic way to finish an afternoon and to start a week. That really is a beautiful, beautiful scene. So we're being very, very spoilt this afternoon. There you go, she can see her lying with those nice sunset colours behind her. And so we've moved a little bit just so that we can at least get a beautiful picture of her. And she does have, looks like she has quite a full belly, so I would imagine that they would have eaten at some point. Now, Thamba is actually not too far away from us as well. We found him too. He is lying in the thick grass and is almost not visible at this stage of the game. He's just down in front of us, and this sort of scene of Thandi in the tree is definitely stealing the show at this stage. So if we pull back, Thamba is just here in front of me. So Ferg, if you look about there, should be where he is. Now, if anyone can spot him from there, I'd be quite impressed. But hopefully we'll find his little tail somewhere in there. Oh, difficult to see to the right, maybe, Ferg? Just shows you just how difficult it actually is to see him. More right. More right. Oh, no. Where's he gone now? He's somewhere in that grass. There, no, a little bit more to the right. No, more, that's me. No, we're too far then, we've got to go more left. Just shows you how difficult it is to actually, there he is. We got him now. There he is. So it just shows you how difficult it can be to find him. Now, this is Ferg's favourite leopard so far, according to him. This is the one that he really, really likes the most. So very, very cool to see him, and Ferg's definitely very happy. We might not have got his cheetah, but he's super excited to have the two leopards. So really is a beautiful time of the day, and I wonder if he's not going to go join Mom. He's awake now, so I'm hoping that he might go and head up towards his mother, and we'll be able to then see the two of them in the tree. And wouldn't that just make for the most magical scene as the two of them lounge with the sun setting? And that sun is just dipping now below the horizon, unfortunately, which means that it's starting to lose a little bit of colour, but was still really nice while it lasted, that's for sure. But that camouflage amazes me. To see that is, it just shows you how we must drive past leopards all the time. If you had to drive on the road, there is not a hope that you would ever see that. If it wasn't for them going across these sandy roads, you really would not see that. It took us how long to find him just with a camera punched in. So you can imagine driving along how difficult it must be to spot. And if he lies flat, there is no chance that you're going to see that leopard. I think let's have a look at Thandi while we have these beautiful visuals of her and our naughty little Thamba is hiding in the grass, because that scene right there is as good as it gets. You've got that sun, clouds, marula tree, and a beautiful female leopard in it. Like I say, it doesn't get much better than that. Very cool. Like I say, not the worst way to end the day or start the work week. What do you think, Ferg? Not a bad Monday afternoon?
Super Monday.
Super Monday. And to think some poor souls are sitting in traffic somewhere on William Nicol, Ferg, or on, what's a big road in Cape Town that's got lots of traffic on it?
All of them.
All of them, yes. All the roads in Cape Town do have a lot of traffic. Just think that some of them are sitting in that while you're busy sitting with a leopard in the sunset is really a very, very cool feeling. I'm sorry for those people that are in traffic, but for us, it is so special to finish our days with sights like that.
You are in traffic, why are you watching it?
Well, if I was in traffic, I would watch this. It would be a good way to pass the time. Wouldn't you think, Ferg? I think so.
Add something into the disclaimer.
We'll have to add something into this disclaimer. Please do not drive and watch Safari live. Yes, I would say if you're driving, don't do that. But if you're in traffic and gridlocked on a highway somewhere, I would say that it's not the worst way to spend your afternoon. But that scene right there is magical. Well done, Ferg. You're getting the hang of this new camera, aren't you? There we go. Well done. There we go. Well done. Now, it's interesting to see the sort of distances that Thandi has been covering the last few weeks. We've seen her quite a lot in Djuma and spending a lot of time sort of going quite far north in Djuma since we've had this disappearance of Karula. And I wonder if she's not just checking the sort of area and seeing if potentially there could be some sort of a gap in a territory that is now opened up that she can potentially take. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens over the next few weeks and months, and whether or not Thandi actually becomes a lot more permanent sort of fixture on Djuma than sticking to this eastern side. She's been spending a lot of time around Chitwa and always has. There's been raised a number of cubs in this area and always used Chitwa as a sort of part of her territory, but it's going to be interesting now with sort of Karula disappearing if she's going to not shift a little bit more to the sort of west and northwest. I don't think she's actually been seen since she left her mom that far into Djuma. The other day, Jamie left her, she was on Elephant Carcass, which is quite a long way in. It's much further than I would have thought. So I'm quite surprised that she would have been that far up. And they must have had a kill there as well, because both her and Thamba's tracks stayed in that area for a while, and it was only 2 days later that we found their tracks actually leaving the property. So I would imagine that they must have had a meal there somewhere, and that was a few days ago, and since then they've definitely eaten, because her belly has got a little bulge to it as well. Now Thamba, I have no idea if he got any food, because he's just so flat in the grass at this stage. It's almost impossible to see him. But she's fast. So you can see every now and then one eye just opens up. Right, now we're going to sort of stay with these two, because really it is the most magical scene. And while we do that, let's go across to James, who's reflecting on the magic of the sunset. Well, we are still with this leopard, and isn't that just so good? She's still fast asleep, and I suspect she will be like this for quite a while still, until it gets very dark. I don't think she's going to be doing too much moving at this stage. She's really kind of gotten herself very comfortable, and the fact of the matter is that both are like, oh, and I say that, and now she decides to wake up. If she yawns, that might be a sign. Now I'm going to try and just go around, because she's now positioned herself in a way where she's facing the opposite way. Now we've got to just be careful of little Thamba, who's somewhere in this area. Hello, boy. Now, he's just off to our left, but he's still in these thickets. Hello, boy. There we go. You can see, look at that camouflage. It is incredible. Ooh, Joshua, you're asking what is the average number of cubs a leopard will give birth to. Well, I don't know if you're asking at one time or in their lifespan, but if we're asking one time, then the average is around 2, sometimes 3 or 4, but it is sort of 2 normally. And then if we're talking about in terms of their whole lifespan, well, we know Karula had 11 cubs, which is a phenomenal number of cubs. A lot of other females will actually have more cubs, but don't raise them successfully. She just raised so many successfully that ended up with a situation where she was sort of had a little bit fewer, but I think Shadow has probably had double the amount of cubs. It just unfortunately hasn't raised many of them to adulthood. But in terms of litter sizes, 2 is an average for this area. You will get 1 or 3 sometimes, just depends on the situation. But wow, isn't that amazing? Still sitting in the marula. Now I thought she was going to face the other side, but she's now put her head back this side, and so she's just sort of peering off into the distance at this stage. I don't think she's awake just yet. Those paws haven't come up, and I know there's a branch in the way, Ferg. I'm sorry. It was nice to see little Thamba here, because his eyes are so beautiful as well. But there we go. No, girl, are you going to wake up? It looks like her eyes are open, which is probably not a bad sign. Yes, that one eye is definitely open, so I would imagine that she might start to think about moving now. But now that we're quite close to Thamba, I can see his belly's quite full too. So I don't know if they don't have a carcass here somewhere. I don't see it on the tree, but there's definitely a sign that his belly's quite full as well. You can see it quite swollen in the grass there. Hello, boy. He is so pretty, this boy. Fast becoming one of my favorites. Yes, we're talking about you. Hello. You really are one of the most beautiful leopards I've ever seen. Very, very cute. So, Lady Starfire, you're wondering if a female leopard would kill the cubs of another little female leopard if she was denning in that leopard's territory. So hypothetically, let's say Shadow with her cubs and Thandi came across them. It could happen. It's happened before, and females will sometimes kill those cubs, but generally it's more the males that do it than anything else. But a female will do it from time to time, so it does happen. Oh, hello, beautiful boy. His markings around his eyes are so dark. It's going to be a very, very, very pretty male when he's older, and I think he's going to be quite an intimidating guy. When he looks at you with those dark eyes later in life, it's going to be very, very tough to not sort of be intimidated by that. Now, of course, he's going to close his eyes and fall asleep. Are you tired, my boy? Is that big full belly weighing you down? Oh, shame. So cute. You're getting very big as well. I was just looking at him now, kind of next to the car, because he's quite close to the car at this stage, and he really is getting quite large. His paws and his sort of grown into his ears quite a bit recently as well. The ears don't look nearly as big as they did at one stage, so he is putting on quite a bit of size. And the other thing that is sort of striking about him is the richness of the color on his coat. He's got a very sort of golden color, particularly on that neck area. It's very, very gold. And often you'll find this with males. Males sometimes do get these much more golden coats than what the females do. The females often get a yellow colored coat, whereas the males, that sort of deep gold color. And I think a lot of ladies are going to be after you when you're a bit older, young man. Gremlins, Jenna, you're wondering what age would a leopard get used to sleeping in trees? Well, from 3 months old, they start to really know how to climb as well as be able to lie in the boughs of a tree. And so you'll find from 3 months they're already quite at home in there. They can already start climbing at around sort of 8 weeks, but it just takes a little bit longer to actually get used to being up there and being a bit graceful. The first few times they try, they often fall and all kinds of other things as they learn this sort of balance and using their claws and their tail to their advantage. And so once they reach 3 months, then generally they're pretty good at being able to sort of maneuver themselves around. Now I'm going to just try go around and see Thandi one last time before we make space, because there are a number of other vehicles that do want to come into this area and see these two beautiful leopards. So we'll quickly just go around and get one last look at Thandi and get one last sort of visual of her before we decide to go out. Now, hopefully, I was just doing a big loop around because I don't want to scare little Thamba out of where he was lying. I don't see any carcass around here, but they definitely have full bellies. So they've fed really well in the last day, that's for sure. Hopefully we'll get her looking this way, and typical is she's now looked the other way again. As we come round, she's decided to look the other way. Really, my girl? Are you going to be like that this afternoon? It's a pity because it really is very pretty from this angle. If she looked at us, it would be fantastic. But alas, she's now looking the other side again. And I wonder with maybe the spotlights on that side, she might just adjust and look this way one more time. But that is sheer comfort right there. She's about as comfortable as you could ever be. It's so nice just to sit and listen to the sort of sounds at this time of the night. And fortunately there's lots of cameras clicking. Other than that though, it is very, very still, and this leopard in the tree, it almost just adds to that when it's still like this. So it would be really nice if it just got a little quieter and all the sort of daylight birds just quietened down, and if the camera stopped clicking for 1 second, it would also be quite nice just to enjoy this sort of scene. I really am surprised that she's up there this afternoon with the wind that we've had. It's quite blustery, which is generally not great sort of conditions for a leopard to be up. They don't really like that cold wind blowing in their face, but maybe with that big fat tummy that she's got, with that fat belly she's probably producing quite a bit of heat now. Sorry, I just heard something about Tingana on the radio, so I was just wondering where he is. And apparently he's also not too far from here, and it's got a big fat belly too, so I wonder if he didn't steal from these two leopards, and that's why they don't have the most massive of bellies, but they're still quite full. I wouldn't be surprised if he managed to steal something from them. Come on, girl, give us one last look before we leave. Right, so I think we're going to have to unfortunately leave them and let them carry on with their evening of lounging in the trees. It's, like I say, quite a few cars that do want to come, particularly because she is up in the tree. It's not something that is always seen. You know, everyone always thinks leopards are in trees every single minute of the day, and it's not always the case. Leopards spend most of their time down on the ground. They're actually only up in trees sort of a small percentage of their time, and so that because she's up, like I say, a lot of other people want to actually see her, so we're going to have to let them know on the radio and call them in. Now, that paw is beautiful, especially with that bit of highlight of that spotlight. Very, very pretty indeed. You can see actually how small the sort of pads are in comparison to the actual paw itself. The pads are very, very little and lots of fur around it. So often we see the size of these feet and we think, you know, the tracks look so small in comparison. Well, you can see why the actual pads themselves are much smaller than what the foot is. There's lots of fur around them. Right, so while we kind of get out of here and get on our way and see if maybe we can't find out where Tingana is, let's go across to Jamie and see how she's doing. So she's just come down to the lowest branch now, and isn't that beautiful? Luckily with Tingana being around, it meant that we got to stay a little bit longer with her, but look at that. That is about as good a leopard sort of sighting as one could ever wish for. It would be really, really good to actually get some pictures of her there, because that is great. For those of you that do screenshots, that is where you are aiming. That is very, very, very cool. And it's as good as a leopard shot as you're ever going to get. Now she's going to descend the tree, so let's see. Here we go. And down she should come on the side of the tree. No, you've used the wrong way, girl. I wonder if that means little Thamba is going to come up now. Here she goes. And she's going to slink through the grass now. There we go, she's just moving off. See, that belly is quite full now. Now you can see it a lot better that she's out the tree. Definitely got quite a full tummy. Striding off now. Little Thamba, I don't know where he is and whether or not he's coming, but we're going to just see if he doesn't come past and see where he goes, and we'll let Thandi carry on and these two vehicles follow her, because I think he might come and follow his mother. Let's just go back a little bit. Wonder if Thamba is going to stay where he is. Let's have a look quickly. I don't see him moving yet. He's still lying in the grass, so he must have heard his mom come down, but maybe he just doesn't feel like moving. Maybe he knows that mom is now on a hunting mission and that he needs to just stay behind, because I don't think he's actually moved at this stage. Oh, there we go. That's why they're not moving, was because apparently she's made her way to a carcass. Now my earpiece is falling out. So let's see now quickly. Let's go to where she is, because if she does have a carcass, hold on 2 seconds. There we go. So she's definitely got a carcass. So there you go. You can see she's busy feeding now at the moment. So what she's got looks like an impala ram, which is a big meal for these two. I can't see if it is a ram. Yes, it is a ram indeed. There comes the horns. So that is a really large meal. And what she might be doing now is just eating a little bit, just to lighten up this carcass and get it so it's light enough that she can then take it to that marula tree and get it up into the tree. But this is fantastic news, because if she can keep this carcass, it means that they'll be here for quite a while. Now there's a vehicle that's just joined the sighting and they haven't seen her, so I'm going to make a bit of space for them to allow them to come through. Right, now while we try and sort of sort out all the vehicles here and get everybody into the right positions, let's go across to Jamie, who I believe is still with the Nkumas and are beginning to wake up and play. Well, our leopard is tucking in to its gourmet meal with very, very, very much energy at this stage. It's crunching away, and it seems like it's gotten the front shoulder blade, which means that there's probably quite a lot of this carcass is already gone, a lot more than I first thought. So I wonder if she will actually take it up into a tree. I don't think that she will if it's mostly done. It's hard to see from this angle actually how much is left there. There's a rib cage area and there's a sort of shoulder, but I'm really not sure other than that how much is left. So I wonder if she's not going to try and pick it up and take it to a tree. Come on, girl, that would be spectacular. Imagine if we saw her taking it up into the tree. That would be really, really good. But the meat itself looks fairly fresh, so it must have been last night. I suppose it could have been the night before because of yesterday's weather was so cool and sort of windy that the meat wouldn't have dried very much, although that wind would have sort of dried out the edges. And that meat there is very red still, so I'm thinking probably early hours of this morning, or even during the day today, that this was killed. But I can't see how much of the carcass is actually left, and like I say, a big full-grown male impala like that is difficult for this female to get into a tree. V. Jantrogen, I hope I said that right. You're wondering if the spotlight bothers them. Well, no, not really. The cats have eyes that are able to adapt quite quickly to the light, so you'll find that the pupil will sort of open up and it will be, or close as quickly as the light is shone on it. So it's funny enough, I actually always wondered about this, and then I spoke to a vet who has studied these things and says that actually it doesn't do too much damage to the eye itself. So it's not too much of a problem, but we try and sort of steer away from it a little bit because we have the capability of putting our cameras into infrared. It's just when we have other vehicles with us, they don't have that ability because our eyes don't see in infrared, and so they then are watching this leopard the only way that they can, and that's with the light. But no, it doesn't affect the leopard. If the leopard was affected by it, you would have found that she would have gotten up and she would have moved away from here. She wouldn't have stayed so close, and she wouldn't then definitely not look directly into the light itself. So it is a sort of situation where she's not phased too much. There you go, you can see she's staring directly at the light and is not worried at all. Right, so we are going to have to make space now because there are some of the guys that do want to come in. So while we get out of here, it's been a fantastic sighting of these two beautiful leopards. Let's go across to Jamie and see if the lions have decided to wake up.